Hi, I'm John Panker, a Vice President at TechTarget. Good to have you with us. We are always looking to help tech buyers understand changes in the dynamic in which organizations make their technology purchases. And today we want to zero in on a commonly held perception. The perception that line of business is increasingly involved in making tech purchases. And to offer insight, we have John Brown with us. John Brown is TechTarget's Vice President of Market Intelligence. John, right off the bat, is that perception true? Are line of business folks more involved in making technology purchases today?
Line of business folks definitely have a place in the buying decision. It really depends on the technology that's being purchased. There are some technologies where line of business influence is very strong, typically on things that affect them, and then there are other areas where they're not involved at all.
Okay, so let's tick off a couple of areas where they are very involved.
Okay, so one area, business applications, HR, finance, those sorts of things. Line of business is very involved, especially at the very beginning of the purchase, in those types of events.
Let's stick with these applications. Does that mean IT is not involved?
No, it doesn't mean that at all. All of these projects, if they are integrated into the infrastructure of the company, if they reference company data, those tend to have pretty heavy IT involvement. Our research shows that just about all major IT purchase decisions involve IT because they just have to understand how it's going to interact. There are compliance issues, those sorts of things. So in the vast majority of purchases, even if they're for business applications, IT plays a very important role, especially in the research for solutions.
All right, so now let's talk about the infrastructure side of the house, the data center. Let's talk about networking and security purchases. Is line of business more involved in these types of buys?
So line of business tends to be less involved in these decisions, but oftentimes the financing and the application owner for which that infrastructure might be purchased will be involved. That typically can be a line of business person, but the infrastructure decisions are largely still led by IT decision makers.
So with more and more people involved in purchases in general, buying teams seem to be quite large these days, does that mean marketers need to think differently about their content creation and content marketing strategies?
Absolutely, absolutely. We find, and we often say this, that IT buying is a team sport. And it is important to have content that addresses all of the members of the buying team, not just the management or the sole decision maker. The idea of a sole decision maker is a bit antiquated. Our research clearly points out that most major purchases in larger organizations will have 5, 10 people with decision input, and each one of them has a different role, and they need different content to address their particular needs.
Let's talk a little bit about the cloud. Right? The cloud has basically taken over in many organizations, and the cloud offers a degree of freedom, certainly in terms of how purchases are accounted for within the organization. All of a sudden there's the ability on the application side of the house, at least, to pay for stuff out of OpEx as opposed to CapEx. Is this changing who's involved in making the purchase? Does suddenly, the CMO or the CFO have carte blanche to go out and buy what they want?
So we do see some change in buying behavior because of SaaS applications. They're able to be bought with less capital. So sometimes marketers are able to go out and do pilots and tests and those sorts of things. Ultimately, we find that if the application leverages data or infrastructure within the organization, then IT is going to be very involved, even if it is a pilot type of a project.
All right, a quick final word. If you're talking to a tech marketer today, someone who's been doing this a while, and they're wondering what they should do differently today than they did maybe 10 years ago, what would you tell them?
I would say that they definitely need more content than they had before. They have to account for a more complex buying team and also account for a shortened buy cycle. So line of business is important, certainly, but what is even more important is making sure that you've got the content that meets all of the needs of these folks. Being available, being always on, being always present in the marketplace is the way to go. We see, tens of thousands of leads every day here at TechTarget, and if you're not there, you're not getting them.
And I'm assuming this means you're looking for a champion within the organization, whether that's a business person or a tech person. You want one or more people to be on your side when it comes to recommending a purchase.
Absolutely. And the better your materials are able to address their needs, the more likely they're to become champions for you.
If you want to continue to explore this issue, we do have a white paper that zeroes in on it a little bit, and you can check that out at TechTarget.com. You can also visit TechTarget.com for more best practices material on tech marketing. On behalf of John Brown, I'm John Panker. We thank you so much for your time today.